from someone who wishes to remain anonymous. I have just finished Jonah Goldberg's fine book, Suicide of the West. Well, obviously, it's from Jonah, right? No, I also have read Suicide of the West, and Jonah is one of my favorite political writers, even when I disagree with him, which I do sometimes. In your interview with Jonah Goldberg, you did not challenge him on his claim that the Romantics are a key reason we're discussing the suicide of the West. You have been a defender of those Romantics in the past. Do you agree with Jonah or disagree with him on this point? I actually did challenge him before the cameras were rolling, but the guy was here to sell his book. I thought the book was worth reading, and I didn't want to get in that argument at that particular time. He knows that I disagree with him very, very strongly on the Romantics, and here's why. The age of reason ended with the Reign of Terror. It ended with World War as Napoleon tried to take over Europe and beyond. And Jonah ascribes that to the romantic thinking of Rousseau. But the Romantic movement was a huge, huge and various movement that was not defined by the things that each person said. It was defined by the problems they were trying to solve, which was that the old world and the old religion had been wiped away and nobody quite knew where to go. And they knew after the revolution, especially after the French Revolution, especially, they knew that pure reason was not a way forward. And Jonah and other writers as well say that the Romantics wanted to replace reason with feeling, and that is to sell them incredibly short. When John Keats said, "Oh, for a life of sensation rather than of thoughts," what he was talking about was living not just in the physical, reasonable moment. He was talking about living in the world of meaning, living in the world where things actually mean something to the human heart. And because they had lost the old religion, they had lost the connection to that, and they were trying to bring it together. And all of Keats's writing, all of his great odes are about trying to connect, become one with the experience of the world. And that is a very important thing for humans to do. Otherwise, you get this kind of Vulcan reasoning, like the quote I read yesterday about, we don't have human rights. If you open up somebody, all you see are viscera and blood. Where are the human rights? Well, that is a kind of Vulcan, what Jonah himself calls a Vulcan way of, after Mr. Spock, is a Vulcan way of reasoning that leaves out the true experience of being human. And that's what the Romantics were trying to recover. And it's often said the Romantics failed. I think they failed because they didn't want to embrace God. It was really Coleridge, the brightest of them, the smartest of them, probably the last man on earth who ever knew everything there was to know at that moment, because after that there was just too much to know. He was the one who retained his Christianity, even though I think he was a Unitarian, but he retained his Christianity, he retained his faith and his theism. These guys were looking for a way back from the age of pure reason. They were looking a way back from Mr. Spock back to Captain Kirk. That's what they were looking for. And so I think that they are undersold and attacked as being for feelings as opposed to reason, and that's just selling them short. I'm not a big Rousseau fan. I do think Rousseau is misunderstood frequently, and Jonah has come around on that. He actually is nicer to Rousseau in his new book than he was before. And I think there's much better stuff to say about Rousseau, but I think it's the path through what you think is pure reason that actually leads you to bloodshed and disaster. It really does. There's a painting by Goya where he says the sleep of reason breeds nightmares, something like that. But I always say that the sleep of the heart also bleeds terrible nightmares as well in the world.